So to draw in Illustrator, you have to start with a new document. So to get there, we're going to go to File, we're going to go to New, and it asks us a bunch of different options that we have to define here. First, there's a name where we can just name our document. We can name it something. Then it's going to ask us for artboards. That's how many pieces of paper that are going to be down on our desk. We don't need to change that right now, but just be aware that that's there. And then it asks us for a few different options as far as what size the paper is. So you can do one of the presets. Letter sized is our normal size piece of paper in the United States. It's 8.5 by 11. Most of your notebooks and handouts are an 8.5 by 11. Legal size paper is 8.5 by 14. Mostly contracts end up on 8.5 by 14. Lots of words, need a little bit of extra space on the paper. It's also the biggest piece of paper a lot of printers can handle, so you see posters printed on 8.5 by 14 from time to time around the school. The next one here is Tabloid, which is essentially two 8.5 by 11 pieces of paper side by side, creates an 11 by 17 piece of paper. I'm going to change mine back to letter. Over here on units, we want to make sure most of the time that we're in inches. And orientation, you've got a couple of options. You can see as I click on each one of them, the width and the height switch back and forth. I'm going to make mine landscape, which means 11 inches wide in this case. Now by default, your advanced tab is closed. I'm going to click on the advanced tab and I'm going to go down to where it says color mode. Most of the time Illustrator wants you to be in CMYK. That's cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. Those are the colors that our printer uses. We're actually going to change it to RGB, red, green, blue, while we're working on the graphic on the computer screen. Many times you'll see professional print houses have their monitors calibrated so CMYK shows up accurately. We don't have real great monitors in the classroom, so we keep on RGB, red, green, blue, and then we try to calibrate our printer to look good with our monitors. So I'm going to change it to RGB, and I'm going to click OK. And it gives me a piece of paper to work on. Now if I hit Control minus to zoom myself out, I can see that this piece of paper is sitting on what's essentially a big desk. It's kind of taped down in the middle. And that allows me to kind of draw on one side. So I might draw out here, draw here, have some things go on the piece of paper, some things that are off. It allows me to kind of move graphics on and off as I decide what I want to do. Okay, let me select all those and press delete. So I'm going to hit Control 0 to zoom back in on my page, and I'm going to look at some of these basic drawing tools. You can see that my toolbar is divided into sections. Yours is probably going to be one single column. I have mine doubled up so it looks better on the screen that I'm using here. The top section here is selection tools, and we'll talk more about these as we need them. The next section here are actual drawing tools that we can use for creating graphics. The most basic ones are these tools here. Whenever you see a little black arrow in the lower right hand corner of a tool icon, it means I can click on it and hold, and I get a whole list of different tools. So a rectangle simply makes rectangles. By default they're going to be white fill with a black outline, which we call the stroke. Click and hold, and we've got rounded rectangles. Click and hold, and we have ellipses. Hold down Shift, and they stay in proportion, so an ellipse becomes a circle. Go ahead and pause the video at this point and try these different tools out. There's a lens flare tool at the very bottom. It's not necessarily very useful for a beginner, but go ahead and try out the different tools and see what they do. So now I've drawn several shapes, and you have too. I'm going to get the black arrow tool, which is my really basic selection tool. So I can grab a tool or grab a shape that I've drawn. I can do things like stretch it bigger. I'm holding down Shift right now so it stays in proportion. If I let go of Shift, I can squish it. I can also bring my cursor out here and rotate the shape that I'm drawing a little bit. Okay, so that goes for any shape. Any shape that I draw also has two basic properties to it that I talked about briefly before. There's a fill color and a stroke color, an outline. If I click on this part here, which is my fill color, my color panel pops up. I actually find the color panel a little bit difficult to find colors on. What's a little bit easier is if I double click on that fill color and I get my full color picker up. In the middle here, I can select the hue that I want to use. Hue just means the name of the color, so yellow, green, light blue, blue, purple, red. And then inside the larger box here, I can select my color based on saturation on value, how dark or how gray the color is or how bright the color is. So I'm going to select somewhere in there and click OK, and you can see it changes my shape to that color fill. I can also change the stroke as well, doing the same thing. Now there are other things that you can do to the stroke that we'll talk about later as far as making it bigger, changing how thick or thin it is, but we'll get to that later. A lot of times you'll actually want to turn the stroke off, and you can do that by hitting this little red slash right here. So my stroke is on top of my color picker down here. Hit my red slash, and now on that shape that I had selected I have no outline. I can actually also do that with a fill. So here I have a shape with no outline and no fill, so it's essentially invisible. Don't usually want that, so I'm going to tell it to have a solid color fill again. Go ahead and pause the video and try changing some of the colors on some of the shapes that you've drawn. Another way to change the color of a shape is to use the Swatches panel, which I like better than the color panel because it's easier to use. The Swatches panel is right here, and I'm actually going to grab the tab and tear it out, which you can do with different panels as you're using them. This has some pre-saved colors in here. You can save colors to the Swatches panel in a couple of ways. You could grab it here and drag it over and drop it onto the Swatches panel, or you can hit the New button in the Swatches panel, click OK, and it saves the color that way as well. There are some other colors saved in the Swatches panel. If I click on this little button in the lower left-hand corner, I get a whole list of pre-made swatch panels that Adobe has provided for us. So I can go to Nature and then down to maybe Flowers, and it gives me a pile of colors here that I can use related to flowers. So I can turn this into a sort of pinkish carnation sort of color or a red rose color in my Flowers Swatches panel. This also works for strokes. As long as your stroke is on top, the outline is on top, whatever color you select from the Swatches panel changes the color of the stroke as well. So go ahead and pause the video at this point and try using your Swatches panel to change some of the colors of your shapes. The last thing that I want you to try with this video is to undo the last few things that you've done. Like most software, you can go to Edit, Undo, and it actually tells you what the action is that you did. You applied a swatch. You can go to Edit, Undo, or you can hit Control-Z several times to go back through history and undo the things that you have done. So go ahead and try that. You can see the things that I've done slowly being undone, like colors and rotations and that sort of thing. Go ahead and try that on yours, and that's the last part of this video.